Welcome to the section on cover crops and crop rotation. A cover crop is a plant you utilize before, during, or after planting to help with the aim of improving your soil and helping with other issues like weed control and nitrogen fertilization. Typically, a cover crop is a grass, legume, or from the brassica family. Cover crops can be mowed to help control their height and flowering. If you till or incorporate your cover crop, you can now consider your cover crop a green manure. However, these terms are often used interchangeably. There are many benefits to cover cropping. These include reducing erosion by covering the surface of the soil and having roots growing through the soil, suppressing weeds through competition, fixing nitrogen in concert with the rhizobia, improving soil structure through feeding soil microbial communities with exudates, which in turn helps with soil organic matter stabilization and aggregate formation, and finally breaking insect and disease cycles by providing habitat for competitive organisms and not providing host material. Cover crops are truly a do-it-all tool in our gardening toolbox. One of the most common types of plants used as cover crops are grasses. This is because grasses can quickly be established and are competitive with weeds. Additionally, they provide a tremendous amount of carbon and biomass to help feed the soil. Grasses are divided into two different types depending on their photosynthetic pathways. These two types are warm season grasses and cool season grasses. Like their name suggests, warm season grasses favor warmer conditions, while cool season grasses prefer cooler weather. These preferred growing conditions make warm season grasses better suited as a summer cover crop and cool season grasses as a spring, fall, or winter cover crop. One important factor with grass cover crops is to make sure that they do not go to seed. If you do, you will be dealing with them as a weed for many years to come. To prevent seeding, you can utilize frequent mowing or killing the cover crop before it goes to seed. Legumes are also often used as a cover crop. They are typically slower to establish compared to grasses, but provide the additional benefit of nitrogen fixation. With legumes, you often want to think about how much time and space you can devote to cover cropping. That is because the longer you leave the legume cover crop in, the more benefits you will receive. However, that is only true up to the point when the stand of legumes starts to lose its vigor. If you only want to cover crop for a year or less, vetch or clover could be a good option. If you have the time, planting alfalfa and letting it grow for 3 or more years, along with intelligent mowing, can really improve the soil and suppress even the most difficult to control perennial weeds, such as thistle and bindweed. The more you learn about the wonders of cover crops, the more excited you will become. You will learn about mixing cover crop species to get all types of benefits simultaneously. I would caution you against getting too excited and creating cover crop mixtures that contain more than 3 species to hopefully try and tackle all of your issues at one time. It is better to focus on 1 or 2 cover crops at a time and really let them shine. In general, when creating a cover crop mix, you want to lower the seeding rate of the most competitive grasses while keeping the legume and other less aggressive species at a full monoculture seeding rate. This will often result in a higher seeding rate than what you would be using if planting each species separately. Working a cover crop into your garden can be tricky because of the timing. You want the cover crop to do well, but you also do not want it to harm your primary garden plants. Here are a few recommendations on when to seed your cover crop here in Colorado. For cool season grasses and legumes, you can plant in April or mid-September to mid-October in the fall. For warm season grasses, you can plant in June to early July and still expect good germination and establishment. Like we learned in Eric's talk, if you till in your cover crop, you may experience some nitrogen immobilization, so it is best to wait 2 to 3 weeks after incorporating your cover crop before planting. How you plant your cover crop will have a big impact on how successful it will be. You want a strong and uniform germination to create a solid stand of cover crops. If your cover crop germinates unevenly or in patches, it'll be very hard to manage. The first step in successful planting is to start with a seed bed that is fine and firm. This helps guarantee good seed-to-soil contact. You can then broadcast or plant your cover crop at the determined rate. You don't want to go too light or too heavy on the seed. Both will cause an uneven stand. You will then need to incorporate the seed into the soil. This is typically at a depth of 1/4 to 3/4 inches, but it depends on the size of the seed. The smaller the seed, the closer to the soil surface it needs to be. You can then optionally lightly mulch the seeded area. And then finally, you want to irrigate lightly and frequently to help keep the surface of the soil moist until germination. After germination, you can then gradually decrease the frequency but increase the intensity of your irrigation. Follow these steps and you will soon be a master cover cropper. The idea with crop rotation is that you do not want to plant the same family of plants in the same locations year after year. This is because insects and disease will build up in the soil and start attacking your plants with greater frequency and intensity. When you plant a new family of plants in a location, you are depriving the pathogens and the pests of their hosts, and they will start to die off. In general, this happens over 3 to 4 years, and so after that, it is safe to plant back into the same spot of your garden. You want to make sure you know your plant families in order to rotate your crops correctly. Peppers, tomatoes, and potatoes are all in the Solanaceae family, so planting tomatoes, then peppers, then potatoes is not crop rotation. However, planting onions, sunflowers, tomatoes, peas, then onions would be a great crop rotation. Don't worry too much if you have to plant the same family of plant in the same location for 2 years in a row, but really try to add in that diversity in your rotation after that.